Booker T. Washington, Nicole Carmona, Graciela Aguilar, and Cassandra Sandoval.
Booker T. Washington was born a slave on a plantation belonging to James Burroughs in Franklin County, Virginia. He was the son of an unknown white father and his mother Jane, a slave cook owned by Burroughs. Washington showed no interest, however, in who his father was. His name was given to him because of his stepfather, Washington Ferguson, a slave who his mother married. Booker T lived his early childhood in poverty, but because of emancipation that happened when he was 9, in 1865, at the end of Civil War, he moved with his family to Malden, West Virginia, where his stepdad had found work. Young Washington was put to work packing salt from a nearby mine and later worked in a coal mine. Washington had two female influences in his early education, first being his mother. Washington at a young age displayed an interest in learning to read. Although his mom did not know how to read or write herself, she would buy him spelling books and encouraged him to learn to read and spell. While working in the mines, Washington began attending an elementary school for black children. Washington's other influence was Viola Ruffner, wife of the owner of the mines. Around age 11, eager to escape the mine work, he secured a position as Viola's houseboy. At 18 months of working, he worked for Viola and learned the values of hard work, cleanliness, and thrift. In 1872, age 16, Washington entered Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute in Hampton, Virginia. Having overheard two miners talking about a school for young blacks, Washington determined to make his way there and set out the 500-mile trip with little money collected by friends and family. Barely having enough money by train, the rest of the month-long journey was on foot or by hitchhiking. He arrived with 50 cents to his name and asked to be admitted to the institute. Washington, however, was ordered to clean a room, knowing that it'd be his way into the institute. He swept and dusted until the room was spotless. He became a student there and worked as a custodian to help pay his expenses. Hampton Institute, only 4 years, was a monument to Chapman Armstrong, the most influential person in Washington's life. Born of missionary parents in Hawaii, Armstrong led black troops into the Civil War. Convinced that the future of freedmen lay in practical and industrial education and the instilling of Christian virtues, Armstrong founded Hampton Institute under the American Missionary Association. Washington learned in the Hampton Institute agriculture, brick missionary, and standard academic subjects taught at Hampton more important. He observed the entire philosophy of character building and education stressed by Armstrong.
Washington's graduation. After all the struggles he had as a child and growing up poor, he managed to still graduate with a high rank. Washington graduated from Hampton in 1875. After graduating, he taught at his previous school at Malden, Virginia. In 1879, he was chosen to speak at Hampton's graduation ceremony. Later, he was offered a job as a teacher in Hampton. Booker Washington accepted the job. Tuskegee. Tuskegee was founded in 1881. Alabama State Legislature founded $2,000 for a school for colored people. Mr. Washington was appointed to administer the Tuskegee Institute. The school had very little equipment and very limited funds, and was operated in a church building. But Mr. Washington managed to make it grow. Mr. Washington traveled to several places to collect funds for the institute. He explained that the institute wasn't to compete with the whites, but to focus African Americans to learn industrial skills. The institute grew rapidly through the years. and now it is known as the Tuskegee University. Washington's idea. Booker Washington-based Tuskegee Institute in a Hampton model. Tuskegee was focused on industrial skills. Washington believed that in order for blacks to be respected and go up in society, they first needed to prove they were worthy. Washington wanted all blacks to get an education in industrial skills first. He believed that if African Americans work hard and obtain financial independence, they would eventually win acceptance and respect from the white community.
Washington's visit to Denmark. So he found that their basic idea of the folk high school ideology of educating was from the bottom up, and it appealed to a broad segment of population instead of focusing on just a small elite. So Washington was very pleased with this because it aligned with his own philosophy. He also believed that the Danish farmers seemed better educated than any other farmers in other countries. So his goal was to have an excellent vocational education for the general black population. This would facilitate gaining political rights and hopefully lead to the abolition of segregation. So the Danish and Tuskegee system of education were quite similar, but they did have some differences. The way they were similar was their goal was to educate the ordinary or common people. The way they were different was the Danish wanted their people to have a chance to vote, whereas Washington believed, in improving people's living conditions and postponed attainment of equal political rights. So what Tuskegee was all about and why it taught what it taught. Firstly, he found that he was discouraged because when he would go to the South, and he would talk to women, they would be able to talk about important subjects. These girls could find any location of any country and they could talk about chemistry, but they couldn't, they would serve their family poorly bread and meat 3 times a day. They didn't know where the dishes would go on a table, and they couldn't iron a shirt and properly wash it. So what Tuskegee did was they combined industrial training with mental and moral culture. The men would learn about wheelwrighting and blacksmith, whereas women would learn about laundry work, cooking, sewing, even to housekeeping. In addition, for all that for men and women, they would learn about academic and religious training. You even had some parents actually protest that they didn't want their children just to learn about work. They only wanted them to learn about books. But after a few years, it settled down. So another example of a girl who, after she had gone through all this training, she had a mix of a great academic education where she would know her responsibilities, and that starts a train of people doing that, mothers and fathers teaching their children that they need both hard work and a great education to continue living on a very good life. What was pretty interesting about Booker T. Washington was that he would actually get nervous in front of a crowd when he would speak. He says that it would take him a while to get used to the crowd. Or not only that, he believed that, if he was going to have a speech, not many people would come. There was once a blizzard and he thought, well, no one's going to come. But as he walks into the church, the church is full of people. He's also, a very good manipulator. The way he talks about it is that when he's in a room, after about 10 minutes, he finds that one person that he thinks, okay, well, this person doesn't, um, see what I see. So what he'll try to do is, he'll capture his attention, just that person, and slowly make them see, him. That way he can have, this message can go across through everybody. And that's pretty interesting for a person who has, speaks all the time and then he becomes really nervous. So, those are his speaker skills.